All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Triple Option Talk. We're in championship form. We have the college football playoffs, and the bracket was released. And I can speak for the room when I say you did a great job. I was so happy, not just because Alabama wasn't in it, but I feel like it was perfectly correct. But we're going to talk about that. Got my co-host, I got Andrew, I got Chase. They're sharing a computer. They had a little bit of problems, but nonetheless, we're going to have some great conversations. And the first thing that I want to start off with has nothing to do with any of the championship games, has nothing to do with the playoffs. Jack Pyburn, I don't know who you think you are, but this is a Florida player who has let NIL deals go to his head, and he demanded.
I saw this.
He wanted some guarantees in his contract to stay with the Florida Gators, and these were the requirements. He wanted $45,000 a month. He wanted guaranteed starting position, guaranteed to play all third downs, and then he wants more snaps in the rotations. If I was the Florida coach, I would tell this dude to go kick rocks and go somewhere else. So Florida wasn't willing to agree, so he has entered the transfer portal. I don't know who you think you are, you little punk, but let me tell you something. We will totally take you, and we will guarantee all of those things. You can have everything you want, brother. Just come on.
Like,
no, how ridiculous is that?
What are we doing here? Like, this is my exact concern when it came to the whole NIL system in college football. Like, I completely understand. You got college students who have to sacrifice their time, their body to produce on the field, represent your program. I'm totally in full support of them getting some kind of grant handed to them for their efforts. But when you're starting to negotiate with your university who gave you the chance to come make a name for yourself, this ain't the NFL, dude. This ain't your job yet. You're first of all, and if they want to make this an academics first thing, then don't be giving players this much power to be them. Okay, so imagine you say yes. Let's just say in the crazy world, Florida said yes to that deal, okay? And, I mean, this guy just sucked. Absolutely horrific at his job. Does he still have to play every third down? Even though there's exactly. Guys on the field that's so much better? You can't negotiate that. Well, I don't know what kind of outcome he was thinking that would come from that.
Well, what this has shown is that NIL has been blown completely out of proportion. And like you said, Andrew, I think everyone agrees because I remember – me and Andrew went to a West Georgia football panel one time. It had a bunch of West Georgia alumni. And they were talking about the transition to D1. And one of the conversations we had was actually about NIL. And one thing that every alumni said was they wish that NIL was a thing when they played college ball. Because it's great for the sport. It gives them an incentive to stay in college and develop instead of going to the NFL as quick as they can just for the money. But because there's no cap space on the NIL, players they're letting it get way too in their heads. I mean, you had that UNLV quarterback that decided to not play football at all anymore at UNLV because there was some mess up in his contract and he wasn't getting the money he was promised. And I remember when college football was about fun. It was about passion. There used to be a time where scholarships were enough. If you got a scholarship, that's all a player ever asked for to come to your school. Now it's not just a scholarship. It's guaranteed to play on third down. I have to get this amount of money, this deal. I want to be in this commercial, that commercial. And it is just completely out of control. And I fully expect, 100 expect, for NCAA to put a cap space on the NIL as soon as they can. Because if not, this problem is only going to get worse.
Yeah, I think it's crazy in the fact that, you have legitimate teenagers demanding this type of stuff when you're in college. You put it perfectly. You were given an opportunity to play for this program. It wasn't something that we oh, hey, we need you. We'll give you this amount of money. It's no, you're lucky enough that we showed up to your high school games to recruit your bum self. And now once you're here, by the way, this is the most Florida Gator thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
100%. You were just right on par. But, I think NIL after a while is going to get a little bit beyond ridiculous to where we are going to wish that people just left for the NFL instead of sticking around so we don't have to give these kids a bunch of money. Which, I mean, I understand. I get that because I think if you're in college, like, if I was a coach, I'd be like, look, if I'm signing you, you're not on, like, you have no option of just going to the NFL until the season is completely done. If we have a bowl game, I don't care if it is the Cotton Bowl or the freaking Tostito Pizza Roll Bowl, you're playing in it. You're absolutely playing in it. But if there's any person in the entire college football roster that you would want to give any NIL deals to, it is going to be Arizona State's Cam Skattebo.
Yeah!
What a monster that kid is.
What a name, too. Skattebo? What a name.
That is going to be a name to fear in a couple years in the NFL. That kid is going to be running people over left, right, and center. And I love the fact that he said that he is the best running back in all of college football. And you immediately think of Genty and, like, how amazing he is. But just, like, the fire this kid played with in this game and completely just ran over Iowa State. It's unbelievable. Did y'all watch all of this game? I actually got to catch every minute of it.
I watched a majority of it. I think I watched all of it until about halfway through the third quarter when Iowa State turned over the ball 3 straight possessions to start the second half.
Yeah, that was ugly.
This was a close game. Arizona State, had the 21-10 or the 24-10 lead heading into halftime, but it was a late score that gave them that 2-possession lead heading into halftime. So that first half was actually really close. It was really back and forth. And then Iowa State got the ball to start the second half. Turnover. Got the ball again. Turnover. Arizona State scored. Another turnover. And that's when it got out of hand, and Arizona State just completely ran away this thing. But just for kicks and giggles.
Did you see? There's one throw that if you watch this game, it should have been another turnover. Do you know the throw I'm talking about?
The one by Skattebo when he threw it up because he was like trying to like run all the way around the offensive line and they were like inside the red zone. And he tried to have like a hero. That was ridiculous.
His coach literally came out on the field and was like
that was the
what are you doing?
That was the only low light that Cam Skattebo had the entire game. And I think the color commentary for that game said it perfectly. He splashed that vitamin C all over the Cyclones, baby. And I think the best comparison, this is something that I was thinking of when I was watching Cam Skattebo destroy that Cyclone defense. And I think this describes him perfectly and why I think he's going to be such a steal in the NFL draft. When you watch him play, it's literally a fullback with the speed of Christian McCaffrey. Like that just seems so unfair. And
disgusting.
I remember my earliest moment of Cam Skattebo was week 2 of the college football season. Mississippi State was playing in Arizona State. And it was one of those weird 10:30 kickoffs, like who the crap's going to stay up and watch this game. But I was sitting there and I was like, well, I'm going to watch a little bit of it because, it's an SEC team playing Arizona State. Let's just see how this goes. It was pretty intriguing to me. He had 262 rush yards on 33 attempts. And I was like, who is this kid? And sure enough, here he is about to make an appearance in the college football playoff. And correct me if I'm wrong. Is this this is the guy that was like a one-star recruit out of high school, right? Yeah. This guy had, I think, 1 scholarship coming out of high school. He was a 1-star recruit coming out of high school. He started ball playing for a Division III college football school, and he had such an unreal freshman season that he got recognition from Arizona State. They gave him the opportunity, and he has quite literally ran away with this opportunity.
Yeah, I think when you go to high school ratings, I think a lot of them are garbage. Like you really can't base it off of it. Here's a prime example. Derrick Henry, 2-star out of high school.
Jared Verse was a 0-star. Jared Verse had 0 stars coming out of high school. And I think the problem is, I think it's because Skattebo especially, he played for a really small high school. So you have some recruits that come to these small high schools, and they don't think much of these players, because Skattebo, if you look at his high school resume, he had an unreal season, but he played for like a 2A high school. So all the recruits are like, well, he can't be that good. He's not playing good competition. So just for that, we're going to label him a 1-star because he can't be that good. But they were overlooking his size and his speed. They were too worried about the lack of competition and not paying enough attention to how actually physical and athletic this guy actually was. And because of that, multiple schools missed out on the chance, and Arizona State was lucky enough to recognize his true talent at Division III level. And now he's quite literally brought them from a 3-9 team. You gotta remember, Arizona State was 3-9 last year. They were predicted heading into the season to finish dead last in the Big 12, and now they just won the Big 12, and they have an automatic bid in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's literally a modern-day Tim Riggins.
Yes, yeah, he really is. And I think you got to give a big, tip of the cap to Kenny Dillingham, the head coach of Arizona State. First of all,
awesome.
I love his attitude, by the way. He's a goofball. Buddy is such a goofball. He's so funny. He's so hilarious. He'll provide you some good entertainment and win football games at the same time. But yeah, to turn a program around that was heading in such a downward spiral, their first year in the Big 12, coming out of the Pac-12 that completely fell apart. It's just unbelievable, because another thing to put in perspective is Iowa State, who's been a Big 12 team most of their existence, hasn't won a Big 12 championship in over 100 years. And Arizona State walks in there and takes a Big 12 title in their very first season in that conference. Just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so good. I think that was like a lot of expectations on Texas too, because they had an opportunity to win the SEC in their first year. So for the fact that Arizona State got to do that is pretty incredible. And, I can't be anything more but happy for him.
Absolutely.
It was funny. My boss, who was at where I was working, and we had it on TV, and he's an Arizona State guy. It's where he went to college, and so he's sitting there, he was glued, and he kept having to go back to his office and come back. And every time he came back, it's like that score just kept climbing. And it was he's like, what's happening right now? And we're all like, I have no idea. Iowa State's playing like crap, and Arizona State's playing like freaking Patriots. It's like,
and I definitely do want to give credit to Dillingham, Coach Dillingham, because he's such an offensive-minded guy, and the proof is in the pudding, because before he got his head job as head coach at Arizona State, he spent multiple years as offensive coordinator for a lot of big schools, such as Auburn, Oregon, and Florida State. Yep. And then everywhere he went, they had a really good offensive season. What was that? I heard that too.
You heard that? I was loud as crap.
I heard that too. That broke the sound barrier.
Hey, are we good right now? Y'all keep talking. I'll be right back.
Well, so of course, Auburn, Oregon, Florida State, everywhere he went, while he stirred offensive coordinator, they had one of the most explosive offenses in college football. So it's no surprise that he gets his first head coach job. And what's the main source of their playoff run? Their offense. You got Scatterby. He's in control of a great running game. He's got that offensive line down to a T that's allowing Scatterby to find A gaps, B gaps, and have such a powerful offensive run. So while people see Arizona State and they're shocked by how good of a season they're having, if you actually dive deep and look into the pudding and get a nice big thick lick of it, it's not that surprising.
Jay cannot put his headphones on. I did that too. I was waiting to say that till Jay came to sit back down. I mean, seriously, he could have came back at any moment when you were talking, but you just happened to put your headphones on when you said the most diabolical sentence I've ever heard you say.
And you know what? I'm not even going to explain what I was talking about. I'm going to leave it with no context whatsoever.
It was about football. Don't worry, Jay. Don't worry, Jay.
I can't wait to watch this back.
Yeah, we didn't get off topic. It was football related.
But everything you said leading up to that moment was completely normal. And then you sit down, he's like, take a real big lick of it. I'm like, so many different ways you could have said that.
I'm going to leave it with no context. I think it's more fun that way.
But hey, you know what? I will scan this over to a game that was actually closed all the way through 4 quarters and an additional 5-quarter overtime, baby. I'm talking about what went down in the Mercedes-Benz between the burnt orange and the bright red of Georgia.
Who's that coming down the track?
Who's that coming down the track?
Pat McAfee can do that better than
he kills it. Oh, anybody. Speaking of, I'll take a quick pivot. Can we talk about that freaking Timothy dude? He knows ball.
Dude, he does. He does. I was so blown away by his stupid pink jacket And I was like, this kid doesn't know crap. There is no way. And I will be the first to say I was wrong. This kid knows ball, and I was so surprised.
I looked at Chase and I was like, I'm pretty sure this dude was like on some kind of Willy Wonka movie a couple years ago. There is no way he's going to come up here.
He was Wonka. You're 100% right.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm like, there's no way he's going to come up here and spit ball. And he's out here naming the starting quarterback for Ohio and how he's a fifth-year senior. And I'm like, hold on, buddy.
Like, the best thing was the whole game day table was so caught off guard that Pat McAfee just kept staring at him when he was talking. He's like, dude, like, what are you talking? Like, we don't even know this. Like, you're saying things that we don't even know. Like, we don't know this about Ohio. How the crap do you know that Ohio's quarterback is a fifth-year senior, and that he said that Southern University, who Jackson State was playing, had like the third best rushing attack of the offense. Right, this is a JUCO school. How the crap do you know that?
Dude, I loved it so much.
It was hilarious.
Just like, it was so perfect. And by the way, I'm going to get on Pat McAfee for a second because this was a little bit of a low blow. When they were talking about the playoffs and like who was getting in and everything, Pat McAfee was like, "You think Florida State's gonna get in?" And freaking everyone died laughing, but Kirk Herbstreit, and he goes, "I mean, anybody can get in." Like trying to save it. I'm like, dude,
Kirk Herbstreit knew one wrong move because Florida State fans already hate Kirk Herbstreit.
Yeah, we're already not a fan of him, but I love Pat McAfee, and I kind of hope I meet him one day. And when I do, I'm going to remind him of that and be like, yo, what a low blow that was.
I got to admit, that was freaking hilarious. Like, the timing was perfect. But that actually is, funny enough, a good segue into this Georgia game because there's a lot of unpredictable things I'd say that went down in this rematch because the thing we saw that happen in Texas, in the middle of the season, it was a big deciding game between Georgia and Texas. We thought the winner of that game was going to be the winner that solely plays in the SEC championship. Little did we know those two teams would rebound and meet again, which was wild, but I think it made the best possible scenario for that game. In the first half was so defensive. It seemed like everything that Texas struggled to do defensively against Carson Beck in Texas, they completely altered. They finally got pressure in the pocket. They forced Carson Beck to make some weird throws outside. The corners while locking down the receivers. I mean, it was just it was beautiful. And then it was all field goals in the first half. 6-3 was the score going to halftime. And then all of a sudden, in the third quarter, we finally see Carson Beck.
No, in the third quarter. Remember what happened in the last play at halftime.
Oh, sorry. I skipped a part. You're absolutely right. So, final play of that first half, we see Carson Beck, who's been, I think, fair to say, inconsistent and not up to the Heisman potential we all thought he was going to be at the start of the season.
Yep.
He took a big hit. It kind of tormented the right side of his body. He couldn't even flex.
Well, yeah, because he went up for a throw, and right when he was going forward, someone hit the back of the shoulder and it caught the ball loose, and it did. I don't know exactly what the injury was.
Still, have y'all heard the diagnosis of that injury? Because it came out today.
Was it UCL? Something with his UCL?
So this is for people that don't know. This is primarily a baseball injury. You see this a lot in pitchers. He's having to get Tommy John.
Tommy John.
I didn't hear that.
So for people that don't know, that is a major component of how fast and accurately you can throw a baseball. When you have Tommy John, that can really mess some things up. Yeah. It's ended a lot of careers. I don't think this will be the case for Carson Beck, but it's definitely something to be concerned about. I did hear that they're going to try and find a way to kind of give it some physical therapy rather than getting actual surgery. I don't know, but it's definitely something with the elbow. Even when he came in, I know this is skipping way ahead, but we'll come back to this.
Go for it.
Even when he was handing the ball off in that one of those last plays, he couldn't lift his arm.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
he literally was having to snap the ball with one hand and then hand it off to his guy.
Well,
it's really sad on that part. I hate it for him. I hope him nothing but the best. I hope he comes back.
And even that was Kirby Smart's decision to bring in Gunnar Stockton because, of course,
ballsy, by the way.
Well, but it's exactly like you said. Carson Beck immediately after the hit couldn't even flex his muscles.
in his right arm. But he couldn't even tense up his muscles. So obviously, given that diagnosis, Kirby Smart knew he had to take him out of the game, and then it became
he was too high to carry.
The Gunner. He then became the Gunner Stockton show, which we haven't seen since the UMass.
But every
game.
Georgia fan has been asking for it for who knows how long, and I was like, all right, here we go. This is exactly what you want, Georgia. Let's see what happens.
Probably not the stage you wanted Gunner Stockton, but you got him regardless.
But it was fun. It was just perfectly put in place because it was his chance to go out there and showcase himself because he could potentially be the starter for GUGA next year, assuming Beck enters the draft. Yeah, GUGA, baby.
GUGA.
Yeah. Carson Beck comes out there.
Georgia.
And look, and this is, I think, this is what I think all Georgia fans were worried about when Carson Beck got injured. Because the moment that second half started, we saw nothing but conservative play call from Mike Bobo, which honestly, that's all Georgia fans ever saw the entire season. But it was it was put on extreme mode when Gunner Stockton came out there. But give Georgia credit. Trevor Etienne had one of the best touchdown runs I've ever seen inside the 20. They won the third quarter 10-0. But then we saw Gunner Stockton make those little inexperienced mistakes. Because then they finally decided to open up the playbook after Texas made it a one-score game again, and they started playing with some urgency. They were like, Georgia needs to get this to end this game in the final 8 minutes, get in the end zone one more time, and put a bow on this game. But of course, we saw 3rd and long. Gunner Stockton was facing pressure in the pocket. He had to scramble out. He had an open outlet to throw the ball out of bounds.
He tried to be the hero
and punt the ball, but he tried to force it to a guy that was completely covered by the corner. Threw the interception to the free safety, and ultimately Texas went and tied the game, and that's how we got to overtime. So, but
again,
again,
if you're Georgia, this is like, oh crap, here we go again.
And that's exactly what Georgia fans really want to avoid was more extended football. But I do have to say, Gunner Stockton, that is not a bully. That is a full man. I mean, he fits the Bulldog persona so well.
I feel like he shouldn't be alive today. Like after the hit he took, and then he took it like a man. He stood up and put his helmet right back on.
He ate that hit.
Dude, so we were at our house. We were watching with a buddy of ours from college, dude. We saw him running towards the end zone. We were getting up. We were getting excited. We were like, go, go. The moment he got hit, dude, the room went silent. We didn't know what to say. We were like, we just witnessed murder. Like, he died. Like, bring in the third string. Gunner Stockton's dead. Then he just gets up, shrugs his shoulders, pulls on the helmet, and then asks for the next play. And I'm like, dude, like, are you good? Like, do you know where you're at right now?
Like, I was texting a buddy from work. As soon as he got that hit, he goes, he should have came up and went. I would fucking love that. Like, if you did that would have been internet for months. Just bam, he pops up without his helmet and just.
Or gets his little towel and like wipes his mouth.
And then just walks away. I mean, holy crap, what a hit. And like, everyone was like, targeting. And like, I love the fact that this was not a targeting call. He just got obliterated.
He did.
Like, his leg folded back and freaking like, I swear for the moment that he got hit till he hit the ground, he was unconscious.
He was a launcher, dude.
He just folded. And then like, as soon as he hit the ground, just popped up like, all right, here we go. Next play.
But this is okay. So this is a funny thing to me. So because his helmet came off, even though apparently he was good to make the final snap.
I don't understand this. I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't understand it.
They decided to bring out Carson Beck,
and he was literally running out on the field like this.
It was like Jim Carrey and like Ace Ventura when he gets shot with a dart. He just like has no control of his own.
I looked at Chase.
I
looked at Chase and I'm like, how is he going to catch the football and hand it off to the running back? Like, he can't. He has one arm.
If I'm in the huddle and I'm Carson Beck, I'm like, O-line, I swear on my life, if you don't guard and I get hit, I'm going to kill every one of you.
You know, it was funny.
So they've been terrified to be an O-lineman.
On the SEC network, they were interviewing one of the linemen that was in that final play with Carson Beck in the huddle. And they asked him, they were like, how cool was it to see Carson Beck take the final snap of the game after him getting injured? He's like, that was Carson Beck? He's like, dude, I was so locked in the game, I actually had no idea.
I had no idea.
And then, and I was thinking about, I was like, you didn't see the little like car wash inflatable walk out there, and like, how do you not know that all of a sudden I wasn't going to Stockton? But yeah, that's a very questionable decision.
But what happened to Jaden Rashada? You have a third string for these exact scenarios.
Oh, he's a 5-star third string, by the way.
How little trust do you have in like your up and coming like backup quarterback essentially, and then the year after that your starting quarterback, to where we're like, nah, let's put Carson back in there and let's give him a shot. It's like, could you imagine if you told him to throw the ball?
That's what I'm saying. Like, imagine it's like it was a designed fake handoff. Like, what are you?
Like, hey Carson, hey dog, you good? Like, you good?
If I was Carson, I'm like, are you kidding me? Which, it's funny though, because well, actually, no. This is gonna be a little off topic, but I don't know if this was Kirby's decision to put him Carson Becker or Mike Bobo. But while we're talking about Mike Bobo, I was talking to one of my buddies that's a big Georgia fan, and he said something that I thought was really hilarious, but really true. He goes, I almost hate the fact that we're winning with Mike Bobo, because now the organization is probably seeing this by, wow, Mike Bobo, you're doing such a good job. We're winning, so you must be doing a great job. He's like, no, Mike Bobo sucks. He said the problem is his play calling is so bad, yet Georgia is so talented that they're still finding ways to win. And because they keep winning, they're going to keep Mike Bobo around. In reality, nobody wants Mike Bobo because we talked about it, you said it, Andrew, they're conservative. He is so conservative. But Georgia has so many offensive weapons. You think they're good now? Imagine how much more of a powerhouse they could be if he wasn't so scared to open up the playbook and just let the ball fly. Georgia could be an absolute – I know they are a powerhouse, but they could be what Alabama used to be if Mike Bobo wasn't so scared.
Yeah, this is literally a prime example of how Ohio State is with Ryan Day. It's like, we're winning, so we'll keep you around because we're winning. But everybody, even though the fact that Ohio State lost like 2 games this season, and one of them was to Michigan and the other one was to Oregon, people are like, we've got to get this guy out of here. And then you got us, on the other hand, and we just went 2-10, and we're like, we'll take him. Like, bring him on. Like, freaking, and like, it's just so crazy because, like, for a long time, and everyone in the SEC, it was feared by the fact that if you didn't beat Nick Saban, the season was a fail. Even if it was your only loss of the season, you're going to be judged by the Alabama game, which is insanity to me. But like, in the fact of Ohio State and Michigan, I do totally understand that like Ryan Day's season all means crap until you get to Michigan. And that's the only game that matters. You have got to beat Michigan. Even if you beat Michigan and lose in the national championship, people are going to see that season as a win because you beat Michigan.
That's right.
It's crazy in that fact. And like, they'll probably keep Ryan Day around, and people in Ohio State are going to lose their minds. Georgia's going to keep Mike Bobo around, and the people at Georgia are going to lose their minds. And it's just like that weird nuance within college football. It's like, if we're winning, everyone should be happy, but we're not. Right. So unless you're killing DeBoer and you're people of Alabama and you're pissed because he sucks. And he is not your guy, in case you didn't know.
Alabama will never be what Alabama used to be with Kalen DeBoer, and he doesn't have the same coaching habits of Nick Saban. I mean, and you can see in the way Alabama players are acting, the whole atmosphere is just completely different. But
hold on, before this is a good little situational transition, and then we'll go on to the next topic because we'll have to. I want to save some time to talk about everything, but talk about atmosphere change for the University of North Carolina. Getting Bill Belichick.
Hide your daughters.
People are like, I'm afraid to have him on a college campus.
It's about to be a campus ran by like 80% male now. Like
literally.
It's gonna be like, but hey, I will say, despite the weird things that go on off the field, what a freaking hire for the Tar Heels, man.
Yeah, that's insane. So here's kind of my question: is like, when you go to practice, are you going to have the same expectations of NFL players because that's all you know? Or are you going to water down the expectation because these are college kids?
So I think Bill Belichick's going to kind of go into the mindset. Okay, so first, he grew up around North Carolina a lot because his dad was a longtime assistant coach for the Tar Heels. Yep. So he kind of grew up
just, around that atmosphere. And I think, and he even said himself that watching his dad coach North Carolina is what made him fall in love with the coaching game of football. So you got to remember, like, Coach Bill Belichick, his accolades and all the successes on an NFL turf, the upcoming of his coaching career came from the collegiate level first. So I think he recognizes and knows that, he's going to take some of his schemes and some of his mindset and his, strategies from his NFL success and bring it to the collegiate level, because that's what he's here to do, is to bring that kind of success to North Carolina. But at the same time, I think he's going to approach it with the idea that these guys aren't as mature, they're not as skilled, they're not as experienced as the NFL talent he had in New England. But that doesn't mean that Bill Belichick can't build them up to be that potential, because I can assure you this right now, with a guy that has 6 Super Bowls under his belt, I would not be surprised if North Carolina becomes one of the best producers of NFL talent during his 5-year tenure. And you know how many good recruits out of high school is going to be dying to be coached under such a guy like Bill Belichick, who brought Tom Brady to the GOAT status that he is. You gotta remember, this guy was around Randy Moss, and he even had the offensive scheme to make a small white receiver like Julian Edelman one of the best slot receivers in NFL history. So this guy knows how to bring these unexperienced, these youthful collegiate guys coming out of high school and build them and mold them into NFL form. And I think it was Booger McFarland that said it when the hire was made, that North Carolina is going to be set to win national championships in the next 2 years. Give Bill Belichick 2 years, and he's going to have one heck of a team in Chapel Hill.
I think you said it all, Angie. It's all about player development, because it's not just receivers. It's everywhere on the field. Because like you said, obviously, most of his career was under Tom Brady. But you got to remember, Tom Brady was nothing coming out of college. He showed up in the draft carbine in cargo shirts. He looked like he didn't belong there.
That is the craziest thing I ever do. Like
running a 40-yard dash in freaking
cargo shorts.
Like, come on, Tom.
That was Tom Brady, man. He was a 7th-round pick out of Michigan, and he was a good quarterback in Michigan. He wasn't great by any means, but then he takes a guy like Tom Brady and develops him into the greatest quarterback of all time. He did the same thing with tight ends. Rob Gronkowski is considered arguably the greatest tight end of all time. And then Aaron Hernandez, though he had a tragic story at the time, he was considered one of the greatest tight ends of all time. Julian Edelman, and every time New England was there, did he ever have a bad O-line or a bad D-line? Absolutely not. He had success practically every year at New England because of player development. And college football is the center of player development. So I know that one of the main reasons he left the NFL was because he hates what the NFL is coming to. He hates how in the NFL coaches have such little control now. So I think for a guy like Bill Belichick, college is a great place for him because he is so good at player development, and college football is literally just made up of player development. So I think this is a perfect transition for Bill Belichick.
He's not gonna put up in the NIL crap either.
No.
Like, you want how much? Shut up and go do laps. Like, he's just going to be so old school.
And they're going to listen. I guarantee you they're going to listen.
I would give up, legitimately, if this was me, I would give up NIL deals to go play for a team coached by Bill Belichick. If I'm a senior coming out of high school, I'm like, I'm going to go play for the freaking Tar Heels because I want to play under Bill Belichick because I'm going to learn so much more than any other place I go for money. So,
right. Yep.
I think that's great.
Right.
Sorry, I just want to get out there. Bill Belichick, I hope you do good. And hey, keep an eye on Florida State next season. We got a lot of promising little pickups, some promising coaches, some promising players, possibly. Who knows? Can't be worse than
Nick Castellanos, baby.
Hey,
come on.
Hey, I'm just glad we ain't got to play North Carolina next year.
Yeah, for real.
Good. I kind of wish we did and didn't play him next year.
Yeah, because we probably want to play him now before he actually starts turning them. Yeah. Take that statement back.
So too late for that. And speaking of somebody else, it's also too late for Penn State. You had your chance, and unfortunately, Oregon is going to come into the college football playoffs and then undefeated, 13-0. We're going to talk about the bracket probably next week, along with the other bowl games. But
when it gets closer to the playoffs, yeah.
But just in the sense of, especially if you saw the the playoff bracket, it seems like Oregon has a pretty easy road.
I think they had the easiest path.
Yeah, which is a little unfortunate how everything kind of panned out. But, I mean, hey, that's what you get for being the number one team in the country. So I think as long as something crazy doesn't happen, and I really hope like a March Madness 1 versus 64 kind of crazy thing happens, that would be awesome. But I just don't necessarily see it happening. Like I did not see Oregon beating – like I did not see Penn State beating Oregon. It was a little too much for them to bite off.
I do want to say, though, like when I was watching on College Game Day, like a lot of people, they really didn't have a lot of faith in Penn State beating Oregon. And a lot of the reason was because though Penn State finished the season 11-2, they gave Ohio State a really good game, but people don't really know what to make of Ohio State anymore. It's just that every other game – you can excuse the Maryland game because they blew out Maryland. But every other game, they just looked very lackluster. Yeah. This was a team that kind of looked like it almost reminded me of, in a sense, 2014 FSU, a team that didn't look incredible, but they were just squeaking by. No hate on the 2014 Florida State game.
No, that was a stressful season.
It was.
Every single game.
I lost 5 years of my life
every
single
weekend.
It was awful.
It didn't matter who we played, too. It didn't matter who we played. It was a close game regardless.
Oh, my God. It was so bad. I remember every Saturday just being like, okay, we just got to prepare. It's like, it's just going to be so daggum stressful. And the number one game, I will never forget this as long as I live. Florida State, Notre Dame. Brian Kelly. And when they scored, but it was like an offensive pass interference.
You ran outside.
I was outside.
I remember that.
So mad that we lost on some bullcrap to Brian Kelly, of all freaking people. I was so mad. I ran out of our house, and Dad, our father, had to run outside and come grab me, and I'm halfway down the street. And he was like, it's a offensive pass interference. We won. And I'm like, what?
Wait, and
what the crap?
And it's so funny going back and watching that play now, how blatantly obvious that offensive pass interference. I don't know how
I'm mad at myself for not even noticing it.
Yeah, there were three. It could have been called offensive PR because three different players set a pick. Three of them.
Yeah. That one pick was so just like, I think we had Jalen Ramsey at the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, what the crap is happening? I just saw like just this stupid little like out, and it was perfect, and he caught it and walked in untouched, and I was like, that's it. We freaking lost the game, and I was so mad.
If you remember, the reason they got in that situation to begin with
was a 4th and 18.
Because they converted on a 4th and 18. How we just held them there, it wouldn't have mattered. But if you knew anything about 2014 Florida State is we didn't like to make anything easy. I remember it got so bad that ESPN actually started to hate Florida State because every single week everybody would think, oh, Florida State's going to lose. Florida State's going to lose, and they would find some way to win every single time. And I remember like they would talk about on SportsCenter every day, like if you thought Florida State was going to lose this week, you were wrong again.
Yep.
So
that was the year that Kirk Herbstreit really started to hate Florida State.
Yep.
I'm so tired of Florida State. I'm so sick of talking about them because, like, it literally got to a point where it was so just agonizing to watch every game. It wasn't fun. I can't even sit here and say I had fun that season because I didn't. It was miserable.
We went to a game when we were number 3 in the nation. Remember that rainy game against Boston College, and we had to beat
barely won.
A walk-off field goal in the rain. This was an unranked Boston College where the only weapon they had was A.J. Dillon. Other than that, the team sucked. Yep. And it was a home game. There was no excuse for us to win that game on a walk-off field goal.
It was raining. It was cold. We all got nachos, and they were just soggy
nachos.
And I think, was it us 3 and Dad? Were we the only people that stayed?
I think out of everyone that went, I think so.
Because Mom and our grandparents, they went back. They're like, screw this. We're not sitting here. I don't care what happens. We're like, no, we're going to sit here. And I bet Dad, if we ask him this question now, I bet he was like, oh, dang it.
Because we wanted to stay.
Crap, I wanted to go home.
So we all were like, no, we're staying 100%.
That was
in hindsight, I'm glad we did, but
yeah.
that sucked. It was cold. It was rainy. It was awful. We won the game, but barely.
And if you remember that game, the only reason we won on a walk-off field goal is because they missed a 40-yarder on the drive before. If they would have made that 40-yarder, we would have had to stay for overtime. So thank the heavens we had to stay for that.
Thank God.
Because remember, this is the old overtime rules where there was no two-point conversion. So that game would have went on for centuries. It would have been like an A&M and LSU thing all over again.
Dad and I watched that game.
Yeah, and that was ridiculous.
We stayed up and watched it. I think y'all had a good. I can't remember.
I think we were going to bet their school.
I can't remember what grade y'all were in.
Or church or something.
Something, but literally, Dad and I sat down. Y'all were in bed. Mom was in bed, and went to overtime. And he's like, "We'll watch the first overtime. Watch the first one. Watch the second one." And then we're like, "We've got to go to bed." And then it was like the third one, and then the fourth one, and we're like, well, now we can.
Like, now you can't go to bed now. You're so invested.
Yeah. By the sixth one, I was like, I don't even care who wins. Just freaking end it. I was so tired. And the seventh one, we didn't even like celebrate. Hey, great game, whatever. It was like,
the TV off.
Touchdown, Tink. And just didn't say a word to each other. Just both went opposite directions and went to sleep. We were so tired.
It was 2 a.m. It was 7 hours long. Good Lord. Yeah, that game was ridiculous.
I remember Mom being like, did y'all watch the rest of that game? We were like, yeah.
I wish we did it.
Freaking circles under our eyes. Just like, yeah, we watched it. It was a great game.
Yeah.
I remember nothing about it, but it was a great game.
That's hilarious, man.
Oh, man.
That was just such a weird segue. Just 5 minutes ago, every time about Oregon and Penn State, I don't know how we ended up here.
I know, we ended up talking about Florida State. Hey, this is what happens when you have a bunch of Florida State guys talking about
That's what happens, man.
It's unfortunate. But we had one of our bitter rivals in the ACC actually walk away with the ACC championship. Even though it had an eighth-ranked SMU being a favorite going into this game, Clemson managed to pull out a unbelievable victory. They kind of kept the game close all the way around. And then the last probably 3 minutes of that game is what made it. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, now, I think this was a game that everyone that did not want to see Alabama in the playoffs, they were all diehard Clemson fans because that was the best scenario for Alabama to miss the playoffs was for Clemson to win in a close game and then SMU skid down just a little bit and find that last bid to get into the playoffs. And that's what happened.
Perfectly.
But it did not start off that way. Now, there was an interesting thing going into this game. After South Carolina beat Clemson the week prior, after Cade Klubnik quite literally threw that game away, he opened up and said that he sat in his car in the parking lot for 2.5 hours after losing to South Carolina because he was that distraught. So he said going into this game, he was determined to end it, determined to go out there and end it before halftime. And that's exactly what he did. Clemson was up 24-7 going into the half, absolutely routing Jennings, Smith, Daniels Jr., all the top threats for SMU were getting shut down by Clemson's secondary, and Cade Klubnik had 2 touchdowns for almost 200 yards going into halftime. But then the third quarter rolls around, and things kind of slow down offensively, but Clemson's defense still does their part, and Clemson goes into the fourth quarter up 31-14. Seems like this game is over. We're talking about 15 minutes of football, and Clemson's your ACC champs, and, Alabama's probably getting into the playoffs because SMU got demolished. But then all of a sudden, we saw Jennings flip a switch and become the dual threat guy that we've seen from these ponies all season long. I mean, he had that 20-yard pass to Matthew Hilbert that set up an eventual 3-and-out that got Colin Rogers a 46-yard field goal to all of a sudden make it a 7-point ball game. And then here comes 3 minutes left in the game. Jennings goes 61 yards in a minute and 40 seconds to tie the game after a 4-yard pass to Roger Daniels on a little out slant. And all of a sudden, SMU has a 31 game. Now, mind you, there was
I think 38 seconds left on the clock when SMU was doing the kickoff. We all thought that this game was going to overtime, and then all of a sudden we see Clemson. I wish I could remember the guy that returned the kick, but he decides to not take a knee in the end zone. And why not? Because there's 30 seconds left. Try to make a push with the end zone, and he goes 53 yards on the kick return, and then all it took was one 12-yard pass from Kay Klubnik, timeout, and then Nolan Hauser, 56-yard field goal for the win. I mean, what a wild fourth quarter that was.
Yeah.
And I'll just quickly say this about SMU. The thing about them all year is they are known for having the best rushing attack in the ACC. And even though running back Breshard Smith still had 113 rush yards, this was a good thing for SMU heading into the playoffs because they got down by so much against Clemson early. It forced them to pass the ball a lot more than they usually do. Jennings threw the ball 50 different times, but he had 304 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did have an interception that wasn't necessarily his fault. It was just kind of a miscommunication by him and the receiver. So he had a really good game. And now SMU's heading into playoffs knowing that they don't just have to rely on the run. They can allow Jennings to pass it and dominate through the air just as good as they can on the ground. So SMU, they had to go to Happy Valley to play Penn State. That's a very hard playoff game to win and a very tough atmosphere. So it's good for them that they know they have that part of the game figured out heading into a very tough matchup against Penn State.
Yeah, I think Dabo put it perfectly at the end of the game. I think in even this case, he helped SMU kind of get that last spot because with that very close win and a walk-off kick, and he even in the interview said, that is a playoff football team.
Yep.
And I truly believe that. I think SMU is absolutely fully deserving of that last spot. It doesn't matter who they played. It was the fact that they didn't lose the games that Alabama did. For the people that are still mad about that or upset, like I understand that you beat some other people, but you also lost some games that you shouldn't have lost, and that's just kind of how it is. So I'm really glad that SMU got that last spot.
Yeah.
Really glad that Clemson won the ACC the way they did, and they made everything perfect for the playoff bracket to be set. Like I said, they got to play Penn State. That's going to be a tough game. But there's a lot of other games that we're going to be able to talk about next week. And it's going to be a longer episode. We're going to talk about
buckle in, boys.
All of the games. And then I don't know if we want to do this next week or the week after, but we got to pick all of our bowl games.
So they have, I know Army and Navy is this Saturday.
They have a couple bowl games coming on this weekend.
Not this weekend. No, I actually just looked at it. Actually, no, I lied. So actually this Saturday do. It's Jack State, SC State, and then South Alabama, Western Michigan. So it's not till next week till we have some of the bigger bowl games coming around.
So I say next episode we can do like the first half of the episode, preview the college football games with like the next 20 minutes, just all pick these bowl games and get some quick thoughts. It's going to be a lot of episodes. It's going to be tons of fun.
Yeah. So if you guys want to follow along, make sure that you get and submit all your picks. It's a lot of fun to see how many of these you can get right. I'll probably make mine tonight. I'll probably make my wife make hers tonight as well, and then we'll have a little side bet in between the family that we'll do it on, and hope you guys can join in and get to watch the pandemonium unfold. It's our favorite thing about college football mania and just all the crazy games that pop up. But guys, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We are in the tail end of this season. We're about to step into the playoffs. It's crazy to think that we have like 8 games left, like eight or 9 or however many. It's just
season went by that quick, man.
I love the fact that it's going to get extended. We're going to get to watch the playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Thank you for listening, liking, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. And we're going to see you guys next week. We're going to talk about the same old thing. All right. Have a good night.
Peace out, boys.